be seated. Please proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Detective Barnes, can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
And just so the record is clear, you are the same Derek Barnes who's testifying prior to our lunch break?
Yes, sir, I am.
Now, it would be a fair statement that we live in a world where there are pretty much cameras everywhere.
Yes, that's true.
And do cameras have a role in your investigation of this offense?
Yes, they do.
The parking garage of Ms. Hatcher's apartment, that parking garage, does it have a camera system that's motion activated?
Yes, it does.
And during your investigation, did y'all seize videos from that parking garage camera?
Yes, sir, we did.
What did you see on that particular surveillance video?
We were able to capture the suspect vehicle driven by Ms. Cortez entering the garage. The vehicle also waited to get access to the garage. We also had the vehicle canvassing the location as well as parking across the street.
When you say canvassing the location, are you basically saying we can see clips of this black Jeep going back and forth in front of that garage?
Yes, sir.
And then the other surveillance video that's already in evidence, we see that Jeep, or do we see the Jeep enter the garage, park, the offense take place, that Jeep then goes the wrong way and attempt to exit, turns around, comes back out and leaves?
That's correct.
Can I approach the witness, Your Honor?
You may.
State's Exhibit 20 is the video that shows the Jeep surveilling the outside of the garage. You had a chance to look at that.
Yes, sir.
And does this accurately reflect what's on that video?
Yes, it does.
And then State's Exhibit 22 and 23, these are the same video from inside the garage. The only exception is that we have added arrows where you can point out the movement of the individuals involved in this offense.
That's correct.
Your Honor, we would offer State's Exhibit 20, State's Exhibit 22, State's Exhibit 23.
No objection.
Admitted.
So let's start with State's Exhibit 20, Detective. And at approximately 11:42 through 11:44, tell the jury what we're looking at.
That is the entrance to the parking garage that Ms. Hatcher lived in, and there is a suspect vehicle entering the parking garage.
At 11:42 on September the 2nd of 2015.
Yes, sir.
And then at 11:44 through 11:58, what do we see parked across the street?
That is the suspect vehicle, the 1996 Jeep Grand Cherokee.
And then if we go to 12:41, what are we looking at?
That is again the suspect vehicle slowly driving past the parking garage.
And later that evening, at approximately 7:03. And this is the camera that is motion activated?
Yes, it is.
What do we see across the street?
That is the same suspect vehicle, the black 1996 Jeep Grand Cherokee in the parking lot across the street.
Crossing through that parking lot?
Yes, sir.
And then if we move to 7:13, that evening of September the 2nd. What are we looking at?
The suspect vehicle is entering the parking garage.
And the area that we see the Jeep pull into, is that necessarily a secured area?
No, that area is designated for visitor parking. You have to have a key fob to access the actual parking garage.
Where Dr. Hatcher would have parked?
Yes, sir.
What do we see the Jeep getting ready to do with?
They're going to piggyback off of the Mercedes-Benz and to gain access into the parking garage.
And are you referring to the part of the garage where you need a key fob to get into?
Yes, sir, the actual secure area.
Now, based on that portion of the video, Detective, are you able to determine the time that they actually entered into the secure part of the parking lot?
Yes, sir.
And would that be about 7:17
Yes, that's correct.
p.m. that evening?
Yes, sir.
And what do we see there?
That's after Ms. Hatcher was shot, the vehicle was exiting the parking garage and fleeing the scene.
So what are the time frames that we have them entering and then leaving?
They entered at approximately 7:17 and exited 7:44 p.m.
The surveillance video from inside from P1 is already in evidence. And as we discussed, we had added some arrows to that. Is that Dr. Hatcher's car?
Yes, sir.
And if we watch the tail lights, can we see when she turns to park?
Yes.
Actually, that is not Dr. Hatter. There are two white vehicles that enter that garage.
That's correct.
And this would be the first one that actually parks further on down into the parking garage, if you follow the tail lights. We are showing you Exhibit 21, State Exhibit 21. This is not enhanced in any way. You see those tail lights?
Yes, sir.
And do they turn off?
Yes, they appear to park.
And then this second white vehicle, do we watch its tail lights go all the way down to the end of the ramp?
Yes, that's correct.
And turn to go in the lower portion of that parking garage?
Yes, sir.
Now, we see a gentleman get into that white Maserati. Do you know if he was ever interviewed?
Oh, yes, I spoke with him.
And did he have any recollection of seeing or hearing anything that night?
No, nothing at all.
Now, we want to show you States. States 23. What do we see right there?
That's the first sign of movement. Ms. Hatcher's already parked her vehicle. That's the second white vehicle that entered immediately after her. Where the arrow was pointing underneath the word movement, that's the suspect vehicle, the 1996 Jeep Grand Cherokee.
And we are able to go frame by frame with respect to the surveillance videos so that the jury can see the actions of Mr. Love that evening.
That's correct.
Do we see an individual moving?
Yes, we do, with white shoes.
Do you have an opinion as to whether or not that individual is tall or short?
I believe he's fairly tall.
Now, he has gone behind that column, that white column where the fence is.
Yes, sir.
That column is actually in line with the other columns, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
That's kind of an optical illusion, makes it look like it's further on down,
That's correct.
based on the camera angle. On the right-hand side of that column, do you see two white dots, one fainter than the other?
Yes.
And as we go through this video, does it appear that one of those white dots disappears?
Yes, it does.
Has it disappeared?
Yes.
And then at some point, that fainter white dot reappears.
That's correct.
What are we looking at here, Detective?
You actually see the rear lights on the 1996 Jeep Grand Cherokee light up, signaling the vehicle is about to move.
Have we seen, at this point, have we seen anyone else get out of that Jeep Cherokee?
No, sir.
And then what happens now?
The vehicle is about to be put in reverse.
And if we look at where the arrow is, does that second white dot reappear?
Yes.
Now, do you see Mr. Love reappearing on this video?
Yes.
Where is Dr. Hatcher's vehicle in relation to where Mr. Love is now standing and where the Jeep is as it's backing out? You can touch the screen.
It would be somewhere in this area, on the other, to the left of that red vehicle.
Is it fairly clear that Mr. Love is nowhere near Kendra Hatcher's vehicle when he re-enters the Jeep?
That's correct.
So any notion of struggling with Kendra over the property and all of a sudden the Jeep is back down to me, the video does not support that, does it?
No, it doesn't.
Now after she is backed out and turning that direction to go down the entrance ramp, does that Jeep at any point stop?
No, it doesn't appear to stop at all.
And if we follow the tail lights, we can see that.
That's correct.
We're showing you State's Exhibit 21 again, and it will contain a portion that shows that Jeep again. What kind of vehicle is that, Detective?
That is a silver Corvette.
Is that the silver Corvette that our 911 caller was driving that day?
Yes, sir.
And what is that right there?
That is the suspect vehicle.
Leaving the garage at approximately 7:43, 7:44.
Yes, sir.
Can I have the lights, Judge?
Yes, sir.
Now, Detective Barnes, also as part of your investigation, as part of the investigation, were you made aware of a jail phone call that Mr. Love made on October the 2nd?
Yes, sir, I was.
And have you listened to that call yourself?
Yes, I have.
And in that call, there's specifically 2 references to the gun that's found in his vehicle.
Yes, sir.
And who is he having a conversation with?
America's Sweat.
And who is she to him?
She is his girlfriend and the mother of his kids.
And may I approach him?
Yes.
With respect to that jail call, we had a transcript drawn of that call. and it's marked as State's Exhibit 20. Have you had a chance to go through this transcript?
Yes, sir.
And does this transcript accurately reflect the conversation that's captured on that phone call?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, we'd offer States 270 for record purposes. No objection for record purposes.
Admitted.
We have previously tendered copies to the defense. We have copies for the court as well as copies for the jury.
Oh, yes, sir. Thank you.
So we're about to play State's Exhibit 228.
This is a pre-tape. Let's call from an inmate at Dallas County Jail. This call is subject to recording and monitoring. To accept charges, press 1. To refuse charges, press 2. Sharing special moments has never been easier. Video visitation offers an easy and convenient way to visit from the comfort of your home or anywhere you have internet access from your Android smartphone, tablet, or computer. Download the Securus Video Visit app in the Google Play Store or go to www.visitfromhome.net to learn more. Thank you for using Securus. You may start the conversation now. Hello. Hello. Huh? You said what? I couldn't hear you say it was.
I say your wife was in the car in my property.
Yeah, it's on the news. It's on the news.
It's on the news.
Yeah.
They got my face on the news.
Put your name and everything. I put your name and everything came up.
And what did it say?
It just said that, you was the gun, you was target the hit ring, and you was the one that pulled the trigger. And talking about the other lady, she said everybody up in the family. Whatever the 23 hours talking about, it went with what? With your car record and everything.
It went with my what?
He said, whatever the 23 hours, everything the 23 hours told, the police, I said, everything took out to your car record, to your car license.
Yeah, they took my mom, unlocked it, and fucking got every deleted message and everything.
Hang on, bitch, I hate you, man. I hate you. I hate you, man. Huh?
I said, you know, I do.
Okay, nobody make me believe it. You should say like, okay, nobody make me believe it. You should say like,
I did. She did.
they ain't acting like they ain't a million dollars today in this county. That's it. Anything I see them, they'll get out the truck and shoot somebody. What?
They said they would.
They act like they seen you get out the truck and shoot somebody.
Yeah, that's what they acting like. But I don't.
Why would you even keep your gun, man? Keep a gun. Gun.
I was thinking about other shit, thinking about us, the house, thinking about myself. I want to think about myself.
What you in the communicating with me, man? You want to have a gun, you want to have it. No, but I ain't know what but this is like point blank period.
I ain't trying to put nothing on you, though, but, I don't know.
Yeah.
I know it's like, I can't believe it.
Yeah, and the press conference and promotion. They had a press conference and promotion.
A press conference.
Yeah.
I'll put the FBI on people.
This is too serious. How long is it going to get a lawyer and try to fight through this, man? It's just fucked up that you had that gun, man. The person shot that girl with that gun, you should have got him. Probably gonna do it away the fuck.
I know. Like now, thinking about my next step,
Whatever happened, I'll get you in. I said, whatever happened, I'll get you. I got your back, I ain't gonna leave, man. You said what?
I just want you to take care of the kids, that's all.
We can't make these folks take your life forever, man.
You said what?
We can't let these people try to take your life forever.
Can't make these talk what?
So we can't let these people try to take your life forever.
The hell? Fucking FBI. To the fucking bed. Don't talk with me when you know. Then my bond 2.5 million fucking dollars.
No. I feel like everybody think it's my fault.
You feel like everybody will?
I know that is so think it's my fault.
They think it's your fault.
I mean, yeah, so I got you out with that.
I don't know if it's your fault.
Oh, yeah, well, yeah, okay, but yeah, you can't hurt you.
Don't mind. Somebody's off man. I shot on my mama then, but I just talked to him. We got that little first look. How much did you talk to him?
Oh, no, I had my co-worker back for it. Because I couldn't get no way to no call or nothing. So she said she put $20 on, I think they like $3 a call.
Who your car is?
I couldn't act the way they said was always, I gotta come up there and get a new car, so I can go up there and get a new car tomorrow. Come on, lay down and stop.
Damn it.
Okay, so,
Chris,
Huh?
you talked to Kiara.
Say what?
Have you talked to Kiara?
Nah, I'll call my mom.
Dang, I just wish this was a dream.
I thought it was.
Look at God. This shit is crazy.
I thought it was a dream when they pulled up on me. Oh, they was looking at the guy. I know it was Chris Holmes though. He called me twice while he was standing outside. I'm like, what? He called me. He like, I don't know. Then he got on the phone with somebody else. So he got on the phone with the other person. He was like, yeah, we here right now. He like, where you at? And I guess they thought we on the way. Police on the phone up, and the police came at every morning. Like they been watching me all day. 9 o'clock in the morning. I then got my phone at 9 o'clock yesterday morning. They was just waiting. Like I had left the house to go get my mind, and my man
You have 1 minute left.
I had left a little early to go get them, so I had to stop over there.
We gonna have to hang up and call me back because then we have 1 minute left. I guess you gotta crank up and then call me back again.
You want me to call you back right now?
Huh?
You want me to call you back right now?
I mean, yeah, because they said we only got 1 minute left.
Alright.
I mean, wait till a minute, God, then. No.
And every time we get down here talking about, yeah, we know Kristopher. Told us all this, all types of crazy. Yeah, I'm like, what the fuck? Cause I ain't even have any college. No,
You said what?
I ain't have any
Thank
college.
you for using Securus. Goodbye. Hello, this is a prepaid collect call from...
Now, Detective Barnes, do we hear on this call, his girlfriend asked him why he kept the gun?
Yes, sir.
And is his response, I don't know, stupid as fuck?
Yes, sir.
And then is there do we hear a second passage where his girlfriend asked him if he had shot that lady, should have got rid of the gun?
Yes, sir.
And is his response to that, it's too late now?
Yes, sir.
How long have you been a homicide detective, Detective Barnes?
Approximately 6 years.
And when you looked at this offense, the evidence that you gathered, was it clear to you that this was planned out?
Yes, sir.
Was it clear to you that this had been planned out for some period of time?
Yes, it was.
Do you have an opinion as to whether or not, at this point in your career, this is one of the most planned out murders you've had to investigate?
It definitely is.
And based on the evidence and investigation that you gathered, was Kristopher Love involved in the planning?
I have no doubt that Kristopher Love was heavily involved in the planning of this offense.
As well as carrying out the offense?
Yes, sir.
Pastor Woods?
Detective Barnes, you talked about the level of questioning that you performed in this case and the things that you did in regards to the investigation of this case. You had talked about interviews with Crystal Cortez. I mean, you basically were pulling her out on almost a daily basis, questioning her for numerous hours per day, weren't you?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And even up to the date of October the 2nd, when the defendant was arrested, you were still pulling her out and talking to her. In fact, you were talking to her at the time that the defendant and Kelly Ellis were arrested, weren't you?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And she continued to maintain that she wasn't a part of this, was she?
She admitted to driving the vehicle, but she still maintained that the motive for it was just to steal an ID.
Okay, so, and again, so she wasn't, even after that late stage of being locked up for over a month, and that probably, I don't know, we get 60, 70 hours of questioning?
I wouldn't say 60 to 70, but it was quite a bit of interviewing going on between me and Kristopher.
And even when she knows that you have Chris Love and Kelly Ellis on their way to the police station, she continues still to deny it.
Yes,
Still
sir.
came up with a bunch of falsehoods.
Yes, sir.
And let's talk about Kelly Ellis for a minute. Kelly Ellis was brought down. You questioned him on more than one occasion, did you?
I interviewed Kelly once. He was interviewed by Detective Ibarra a second time.
And the information that you have in regards to this case, he certainly was an active participant in the planning of this also, was he not?
Yes, sir.
Could you tell the jury when it was that you brought charges against Kelly Ellis?
Kelly hasn't been charged.
Okay, and so Kelly Ellis is still out on the street, even though you have information from the same sources that you have in this case that you had in prosecuting of this defendant. You had the information that he was involved, correct?
Could you repeat that question again?
And Kelly Ellis is still walking out on the streets, even though as you sit there on the witness stand, you have information and evidence that he was involved in this claim, do you not?
I have information. Nothing has been corroborated on that end.
And in regards to Crystal Cortez, there's obviously she's claiming that the defendant in this case, Kristopher Love, is the one who pulled the trigger. He says that he's got a different version of it. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And one thing is for sure is based upon the videotape that we have, you can't see the killing of Kendra Hatcher, can you?
No, her murder is not on that videotape.
Okay. And in fact, after what is obviously Chris Love coming back and getting in the vehicle, that vehicle comes down and passes, and it's out of sight of the camera for upwards of 45 seconds, isn't it?
It's out for a significant amount of time.
And we don't know what's going on at that moment in time with the participants or the occupants of the vehicle at that time, do we?
The testimony or the statement given by Mr. Love and the statement given by Ms. Cortez is that they went the wrong way, turned around, and came back up the exit.
Okay, but my question to you is, from what we were able to see on the videotape, you're not able to discern it from the videotape alone?
No, sir.
So you don't have any idea what any of these occupants are doing over that 45 seconds?
No, not other than what they told me during their statements.
Okay. Now, Crystal Cortez, when was it that she finally spoke to you and told you the truth, or what she now proclaims to be the truth about this?
The last time she was interviewed, it was by the DA's office. And that was when I got the last version of the incidents that occurred.
But she's never talked to you about that, has she?
I've talked to her several times. Every time that I interview her, I would get more and more information from her.
But all this sudden epiphany to come out and tell what she claims now is the final version of the truth, that was done in regards to her being brought down and told by the DA's office that if she didn't cooperate, she could possibly be facing a life sentence. Is that right?
I don't know what the DA. I wasn't present for that, and I'm not aware of that.
Were you privy to any of the discussions that led up to between the district attorney and her attorney that led up to her plea bargain agreement?
I was informed of the statement that she gave.
Were you informed by anybody about the sentence that she received?
I was informed that she was agreeing to participate in the hearings.
Okay. My question to you was, have you been informed, or were you made aware by anybody from the district attorney's office as to the sentence that she agreed to, that they agreed to give her in exchange for her coming down and testifying?
Not on the specific terms of it, no.
Okay. So if I was to tell you that 35 years is what she was going to get, you're saying I'll be the first one to ever tell you that?
No, I think I read it in the newspaper or read it on the internet yesterday.
Okay. And certainly, when you said earlier that you believe that Chris Love had a large part in the formulation of the plan that will carry out this situation. Certainly, this plan was well underway prior to Crystal Cortez ever meeting anybody or ever meeting Brenda Delgado, correct?
Yes.
And this plan was in effect long before Christopher Love ever met Brenda Delgado.
I don't believe that when you say plan, are you referring to the offense?
The planning and the motivation by Brenda Delgado to cause the ultimate death of Ms. Hatcher.
I'm sure that it happened in Brenda's mind months before she met Mr. Love, but the actual offense didn't occur until she met Mr. Love.
Well, I understand, but my question I was asking is, she had already seriously formulated the plan to do it, and in fact been questioning individuals to help her carry through this process.
Yes, that's correct.
Now, the process evolved throughout some of these things from you were able to determine from talking to these witnesses that at some time there was talk just strictly of being a robbery, was there not?
Yes, there was talk of that earlier.
Okay, and it's Crystal Cortez is the quote-unquote the missing link, the piece that actually ties Chris Love into this plot to commit a murder, correct?
Well, you have Crystal Cortez, you also have the cell phones, and you also have his statement.
Talking about in regards to a plan for there to be a specific act of murder.
Oh no, that came from Crystal Cortez.
Correct. And so Crystal Cortez, her truthfulness and her veracity would certainly be important in trying to ascertain whether or not her version that she's giving now in 2018 is worthy of belief. You'd agree with that, wouldn't you?
Could you ask that question one more time?
Well, I'm asking you, because of the fact that it's her testimony on that key piece, that key link of evidence, that in regards to the motivation of this process as it went into that final plan, because her testimony is the piece, the missing piece there. I mean, she was rewarded. She was given. I mean, by law, she could technically have been facing a sentence of death. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And so this young lady who was instrumental in this plan long before any involvement by Kristopher Love, she scooted out of this thing with a 35-year sentence. She'll be out of here in less than 20 years, won't she?
I don't know how long she'll be here.
You got as a sitting police detective, sir, you got a pretty good.
You need to object to this line of questioning. That's outside of his expertise and it's outside of his knowledge.
Ask me if he knows, Your Honor.
Overruled.
Sir, you telling me you're not familiar with the laws in the state of Texas regarding eligibility of parole?
I don't know how long. I think some of that depends on her how she acts while she's incarcerated.
I understand. That wasn't my question again, sir. My question to you was, as you sit there on that witness stand, you're not trying to tell this jury you're not familiar with the laws regarding parole in the state of Texas, are you?
I'm not a parole officer, sir.
Have you ever been told, or have you learned from any source that a person would have to serve 50% of their sentence before they were eligible?
Judge, again, I must object this line of questioning is best subject to someone.
If he knows.
Parole officer with
Overruled.
No, I don't know, sir.
You don't?
I'm a homicide detective.
Fair enough. Do you know whether or not Brenda Delgado has scooted out on this thing? She wouldn't have to face a sentence of death for her involvement in this particular endeavor.
Yes, sir, I am aware of that.
Okay, so basically Brenda Delgado, who is the individual, and I think you even said in questioning of Kristopher Love that you've had people pull a game on you. I mean, basically Brenda Delgado and Crystal Cortez, they look for somebody to participate in this whole situation. They look for a way to backtrack and cover their activities as good as possible, didn't they?
They did definitely manipulate the circumstances.
And in particular, Brenda Delgado.
Yes, sir.
And now Brenda Delgado, and sir, leaving aside for one moment the question of who in fact pulled the trigger, the jury will make that decision. Leaving that side out of the picture for a moment, as you sit there right now, you know as well as anybody in this room that Ms. Hatcher's life was virtually over from the moment that Brenda Delgado decided she was going to ask whoever it took, as long as it took, to find someone to cause her harm, if that's what she wanted to do.
I don't believe that.
Well, she was asking everybody she could think of, wasn't she?
That's correct, but it still had to take someone willing to pull the trigger, willing to take her life for it to happen.
Okay. And in fact, we had Crystal Cortez, who by her own admission, she was absolutely willing to do it. She was going to do it for virtually nothing, wasn't she?
Yes.
And she in fact told you, sir, and here's the question that you obviously weren't allowed to be in the courtroom during her testimony, correct?
That's correct.
But she described for you her actions on that day when she decided that she was going to go over there and do this on her own, didn't she?
She did mention that during one of her interrogations.
It was a lot more than mentioned, sir. She sat there and discussed it with you. In fact, you sat there and questioned her about it for a lengthy period of time in regards to, well, that doesn't make sense though, Crystal. Why would you be trying to do it yourself if you're saying this whole plan was for Chris Love to do it? And she said that she wanted to get the money for herself. You remember that?
I do remember that.
Okay. That doesn't add up with her story that you know that she's telling now, does it?
Well, it adds up. Kendra Hatcher wasn't killed on that day. Kendra Hatcher was killed on September 2nd.
Well, the day that I'm talking about, sir, and if you need to review your interview, you can. She was talking about the morning of September 2nd, after she had taken Kelly Ellis over there and scouted out this location, and then dropped Kelly Ellis back off and went back to the location by herself. You don't recall that part of it?
I do recall that part of the conversation, but what I was referencing was, at that moment that she did the recon of that location, Ms. Hatcher wasn't killed then.
I understand, but Kristopher Cortez told you the only reason she didn't do it, she didn't commit this robbery/murder at that point in time, is because Ms. Hatcher never came out and was seen by Ms. Cortez that morning. Is that not what she told you?
That is, but what I was referring to, Mr. Johnson, is that what I was investigating was the death. And the death occurred because of Mr. Love. Mr. Love was in the vehicle and he shot Ms. Hatcher.
Okay, and I understand that's the theory. I understand that's why we're here in this courtroom right now. I understand. My question to you was, were you ever able to reconcile that part of Ms. Cortez's story where she told, because somehow even you questioned her about the fact, well, how are you going to do this if there was a gun? How did you have the gun? You remember that?
Yes, there was never a doubt in my mind that Ms. Cortez was a willing participant in this offense. That was never questioned from the time she walked into my office until the time that I saw her last. To the time we put her in jail, that was never questioned. That didn't raise any suspicion on my end.
And so, but she's gone. She may be out of here before she's 40. Miss Delgado, who is the absolute instigator of this whole thing, she's not going to have to face a death sentence. Do you see any problems with the inherent fairness of taking Mr. Love to Patsy in this case and giving him a sentence of death for this case?
Mr. Johnson, I don't write any laws. I'm not a lawmaker.
I didn't ask you about the law. I asked you about you as you talk to these folks and you tell them.
Judge, I'm going to have to object. We are here on guilt, innocence. We're not here on punishment. You're in reference to Mr. Love receiving a death sentence. That's for another determination in these proceedings.
It's the same.
Detective, can I just moment, Judge?
Sure.
That's all I have at this time.
Dr. Barnes, you were asked some questions about, first let's talk about Brenda Delgado
Yes, sir.
and what her punishment is. Where is Brenda Delgado as we sit today?
She's currently in Loose Fair Justice Facility.
And was she extradited from Mexico?
Yes, months after Mr. Love was arrested, members of the Dallas Police Department, U.S. Marshal Service, and the FBI worked diligently to bring Ms. Delgado from Mexico. There wasn't a free pass given to Ms. Delgado. We worked months on end to bring her back so that she may have her day in court.
And with respect to what type of punishment she might face, is there a treaty between the United States and the Mexican government concerning extradition?
Yes, sir.
And by treaty, if we are trying to extradite a Mexican national for the death penalty, potentially for the death penalty, Mexico will not send them back.
That's correct.
So that's a decision that's been taken out of our hands.
That is completely out of my hands.
Let's review the State's Exhibit 21 again. You were asked some questions about not knowing what goes on when the Jeep goes down the ramp. The video actually shows us what doesn't happen when the Jeep goes down the ramp. If we see it moving down,
Yes, sir.
Watch the taillights. You see at the top of the screen, you see those taillights?
Yes, sir.
And also, do you see another vehicle coming right in almost behind that Jeep and going down that ramp in the same direction as that Jeep?
Yes, sir.
And if we watch those taillights, do we see those taillights stop?
I don't believe so. See them light up and slow down as it's rounding the corner. And then it continues down the corner.
And it's reasonable to believe that if that Jeep had been stopped there, as he's suggesting, that vehicle would have had to have stopped too.
That's correct. It wouldn't have been able to pass.
Pass the witness.
I have nothing further.
Thank you, sir. You may stand down.
Thank you.
Let's take call Susan Kerr.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give in this cause will be the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Please introduce yourself to the jury.
Hello, my name is Susan Kerr, K-E-R-R.
Ms. Kerr, how are you employed?
I work with the Dallas Police Department. I'm a forensic manager over 2 units at the police department, the Firearms NIBIN unit and the latent print APHIS unit. Prior to my promotion, I was a firearms examiner with the department, and I was promoted in July of 2015.
Now, you just used the word, you said NIBIN, N-I-B-I-N. That's an acronym, right?
Yes, it is.
Now, the jury's heard that word used early in the trial. Explain to them what that is.
It is a National Integrated Ballistic Information Network. It is our firearms database, which is national.
Ms. Kerr, please tell the jury a little bit about your education, your qualifications, and experience to hold the job you hold right now and be a firearms examiner.
I received my Bachelor of Science degree from Western Carolina University in 1986. My forensic experience started right out of college, and I was hired with the Charlotte, North Carolina Crime Lab as a crime scene investigator. I was also hired with the Kansas Bureau of Investigation as a latent print examiner. In 1996, I was hired as a firearms examiner, starting with the Fort Worth Police Department. I've also worked with other police agencies in the area. Worked with the Southwestern Institute of Forensic Sciences, which is the Dallas County Crime Lab, Plano Police Department, and now with the Dallas Police Department. My training as a firearms examiner was a 2-year on-the-job training with a qualified firearms examiner using the Association of Firearm and Toolmark Examiners training manual. I've completed numerous firearms manufacturers' armorers courses. I've visited firearms manufacturing facilities, ammunition manufacturing facilities, and barrel manufacturing facilities. And I attend the Association of Firearm and Toolmark Examiners Educational Conference.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. I didn't hear you.
I should use this. I also attend the Association of Firearm and Toolmark Examiners Educational Conferences.
Now, Ms. Kerr, I want to just kind of have you explain to the jury, how is it that a firearm works? May I approach the witness?
You may.
I want want to show you an exhibit here. This is a firearm that's in evidence. It's already been checked and cleared, but I'll let you take a look at it. It states Exhibit 213.
Yes. This was the firearm that I did examine, and are you asking me how it works?
I want you to explain to me how it works. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Semi-automatic firearm, usually, it does have a magazine. I see it over here on the bench there. You fill your magazine with the ammunition.
This states Exhibit 214.
Thank you. Okay, fill the ammunition in the magazine.
215.
Okay. I won't do that. So ammunition is added into the magazine. After the magazine is filled, it is put into the magazine well. I won't do it. Once the magazine is pushed up into the magazine well, and the next thing you have to do is you've got to pull the slide to the rear.
Your Honor, may I let it step down? Maybe it's easier to be in front of the jury.
All right.
Okay. So the magazine goes in the magazine well. The slide has to come to the rear. Once it does, it will pick up the very top cartridge, the ammunition, and put it into the chamber or the barrel of the firearm. It's ready to be fired. With a single pull of a trigger with this particular firearm, single pull of a trigger releases the firing pin. The firing pin will hit the primer, which is, this is a cartridge, a large prop of cartridge. Hit the primer of the cartridge, ignite the gunpowder inside the cartridge. Very quickly, energy will push the bullet out the firearm. Once that happens, once the bullet goes out of the firearm, the cartridge case, once that happens, the bullet exits the barrel, the slide starts coming back to the rear, the cartridge case slams back against what's called the breech of the gun. It's where the firing pin protrudes. At that point, the extractor extracts the cartridge case out of the chamber, and the ejector, which is another portion of the gun, will kick it out of the gun. As the slide is all the way to the rear, it comes and it picks up the very next cartridge and places it back into the chamber of the gun, and it's ready to be fired again.
Now, Ms. Curry, in general, in which direction would a cartridge, I guess, after the bullet is fired out of here, in which direction would a cartridge be ejected from, and in particular, states Exhibit 213?
The ejection port of this particular firearm is on the right side. So normally with this particular gun, with the ejection pattern, it will kick it out and to the right.
So, in other words, if I'm holding the gun up, the cartridge would be ejected to my right if I fire.
That's correct.
Okay. Now, with respect to State's Exhibit 213, tell the jury a little bit about when you examined that gun, what you know, just kind of your observations.
When I receive a firearm for examination, I'm going to document all the pertinent information about the gun. Make, model, serial number, its characteristics, class characteristics, in other words, how many land and grooves, direction of twist it has. Lands and grooves are, during manufacture, these are grooves that are cut or formed in the barrel. They run the length of the barrel. This is a kind of a cutout of it, cut out of the barrel. It runs the entire length of the barrel. There are a specific number that the manufacturer cuts into the barrel. They also have a direction of twist or a turn. The whole purpose of the landing grooves is to give the bullet a spin as it exits the barrel. Kind of like a spin, like a football, if you see it spinning in the air, and it gives it better higher velocity and better stability.
What caliber gun was State's Exhibit 213?
The caliber of the gun is a .40 Smith & Wesson.
Ms. Kerr, I want to show you some additional exhibits with respect to State's Exhibit 213. Now, the jury knows State's Exhibit 213 was recovered from a blue Sebring that had been operated by our defendant here, Kristopher Love.
Okay.
Now, at the crime scene, some items were recovered. And I want to start with State's Exhibit 71. And again, the jury's already seen this exhibit. It's in evidence. What is State's Exhibit 71?
State's Exhibit 71 is a magazine.
Now, is this similar to State's Exhibit 214?
Yes, it is.
So my question is, the magazine that was found at the crime scene next to the body of Kendra Hatcher with State's Exhibit 71, would it fit in State's Exhibit 213?
Yes.
State's Exhibit 71 was also loaded with a number of cartridges. Based on your analysis, how many cartridges were provided to you for your examination?
There were 13 cartridges that were submitted.
Just for reference here, we've got State's Exhibit, this is 72. I'll let you take a look at some of these in here. Are these the cartridges that you examined?
Yes, my case number, initials, date is on the envelope, and I also marked each one of them with the same identifying features.
Now, Ms. Kerr, just so we're clear then, so what you've got there, State's Exhibit 72, those cartridges fit into State's Exhibit 71 where they were found.
That is correct.
And then those cartridges loaded in this magazine can then go into State's Exhibit 213.
That is correct.
Now, you've explained to the jury how this firearm works.
Yes.
Would State's Exhibit 71 loaded with those cartridges be capable of firing those cartridges?
Yes, that would be possible.
Now, how many cartridges does State's Exhibit 71 hold?
14.
And there were 13 found in it?
Yes.
Now I want to go to State's Exhibit number 73. Now, State's Exhibit number 73, I'll show you the bag and the contents. You recognize that?
Yes, I do. My case number, item number, and initials are on the outside of the envelope, and also on the outside of the Ziploc bag.
Did you make a microscopic examination of this item?
Yes, I did.
I think that's State 61. 61. I'll tell you what, there's State's Exhibit 61. The jury knows that State's Exhibit 73 was a fired bullet that was found at the crime scene next to the body of Kendra Hatcher. Now, it looks quite a bit different in State's Exhibit 61 than it does in State's Exhibit 73 here. Can you explain to the jury why this bullet looks like a star?
During my examination, the bullet had been expanded. In other words, the petals of the bullet had been expanded all the way around the sides of the bullet. So in order for me to do my examination and analysis, I have to see the bearing surface of the bullet, which is the cylindrical portion of it. In other words, if you're looking at this bullet, I have to see the area all the way around this bullet in order for me to do my analysis. So I couldn't see that. So I basically had bent out those prongs all the way around and made it look like it did.
So the reason it looks that way is because that's part of what you do in performing your analysis of that piece of firearms material.
Yes.
Ms. Kerr, please explain to the jury what you found when you looked at that, and did you make a comparison to State's Exhibit 213?
I examined the bullet, determined class characteristics, which I determined the caliber of the bullet, the number of landing groove impressions. I measured the landing groove widths. And using that information, this is just general class, in test firing the State's Exhibit, the gun.
213.
Thank you, 213. In test firing the State's Exhibit 213 and recovering bullets in cartridge cases from that gun, and then comparing the class characteristics from the one at the scene to the test fired bullets, I was able to identify, hey, they have the similar class characteristics. The next thing I have to do is do a microscopic comparison of both of them. And that's where I'm going to be looking for the individual characteristics, which are the accidental markings left on the bullet. These are markings that are unique to the gun. And I was not able to identify that bullet to State's Exhibit 213. I was not able to identify nor eliminate it. There was not enough sufficient characteristics for me to identify it to the gun.
Explain why that is. Is that uncommon?
No, it's not uncommon. A lot of times it has to do with damage to the bullet. It just depends on the type of ammunition sometimes. But in this particular case, I was unable to identify it to the gun.
So now I want to show you State's Exhibit 75. Again, this is already in evidence. The jury knows that this was a item collected from Kendra Hatcher's vehicle. State's Exhibit 75. Tell the jury what that is.
This is a fired cartridge case, 40 caliber fired cartridge case. And I can identify it with my case number, initials, and item number.
Now, Ms. Kerr, with respect to State's Exhibit 75, did you conduct any examination to possibly compare it to State's Exhibit 213, the 40 caliber Smith & Wesson recovered from Kristopher Love's vehicle?
Yes, I did a microscopic comparison of I guess I can use my prop, of the firing pin impression and breech face marks from the gun, and I was able to positively identify the fired cartridge case to the gun.
So based on your training and experience, Ms. Kerr, is it your opinion that State's Exhibit 75, the cartridge case found on the floorboard of Kendra Hatcher's vehicle, was fired from State's Exhibit 213, the firearm recovered from Kristopher Love?
Yes, I was positively able to identify the fired cartridge case to Exhibit 213.
In connection with your examination, did you prepare a report which documented the findings exactly as you just explained to the jury?
Yes, I did.
Let me show you State's Exhibit 223. Is this a copy of the report you generated?
Yes, it is.
State Officer State's Exhibit 223.
Sorry, no.
Kurt, I believe that's all the questions I have. Thank you. I pass the witness room.
And I have no questions for you, Judge.
Thank you, ma'am. You may stand down and leave the courthouse. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be in recess for the day. I have an eye appointment tomorrow at 8:30 at New Baylor, so it shouldn't take me too long. I anticipate being here no later than 9:30, so if you'll be in my jury room tomorrow morning at 9:30.
Judge, we have to make sure that they leave the transcripts here.
Oh, yes.
All rise.